I was recently sent a number of Shelly devices to take a look at, and the one I'm going to talk about today is this Flood Gen4. This is a flood sensor. We have seen flood sensors before, but what's unique about this one is the fact that it has a cable for the sensor that's extendable up to 150 meters versus just a single point. So you can cover a very wide area with this device here. These were sent to me as review items, and therefore I'm going to talk about them. I did not pay for them. However, what I say about them is my opinion. There's just no say-so in what I have said about them from the company that sent them to me and all of that jazz. So let's get right into the specifications and a few other pieces of this. And yeah, I'll show you what it's all about. All right, so let's unbox this thing. I already took it out of the box so you can see right here, but this is the box it comes in. This is a Flood Gen4 box. Inside the box, it actually has a QR code that you can scan, and that will get you set up on Matter. This is the sticky pad, and it goes on the back of this right here. So you can actually stick this to the wall, and then you can also screw it in, of course. This box contains a couple of screws and a couple of pieces of mounting hardware. So there's your mounting hardware you can use for it. It all goes on to this right here. And then this, when you're ready to put it on whatever surface you're going to mount it to, you just basically slide this on like that, and it's mounted. So super easy to mount. And all the stuff is there for you. This is the actual Flood Gen4 itself. And this is the input here where you would put the sensor. There's a button on here that you can press, and different colors mean different things. It's actually green on the display here, but it shows white on my camera for some reason. Anyway, it's green. Trust me on that. All the colors mean different things. We'll talk about that in a minute. You also get this right here. This is a cable that you can plug into the bottom of this right here. And this is not a sensor cable. I don't know what the length is, but really what it does is it allows you to get to the sensor plugged in here, or get the sensor farther away from the unit. So if you have this up on the wall a ways and you want the sensor wire, which is this, to be down lower and not use up the length of the sensor wire with nothing, then you plug this in here and it's an extension that allows you to do that. This here is interesting to me because this entire wire here is the sensor. So you can lay this down on any surface. You can lay it down up to 150 or connect it up to 150 meters worth of sensor wires here. And you can get water sensing for that entire area. So if you have a whole bathroom or area you want to watch water or watch for water, you can use this. You can lay this along a pipe. You can, in my case, I'll probably put this in the water heater catch basin thingy, pan, I guess you call it, and it'll look for water anywhere around that water heater. But I really like this because this allows you to just use the entire length of the cable as a sensor rather than a couple of little metal points on some of the other sensors I've seen. So real nice here. So that's what you get in the box. Let's get into some of the details and specifications on this. So this is 97, and you saw it on there, 97 by 76 by 25 millimeters, and there's the inches right there. It weighs about 91 grams with the battery, without batteries, 185 grams. So really most of the weight, or half the weight of it at least, is batteries. Takes 4 AA size batteries. It's wall mounting, made out of plastic, and it's white. This is interesting here. It works anywhere from minus 20 to 40 Celsius or minus 5 to 105 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to have this in the garage, so it should be okay. At least this unit. Other stuff I'll probably have in the house will be just fine. This one's interesting to me here. Humidity is 30% to 70% relative humidity. If it goes above 70%, I wonder what happens. I wonder if the sensor starts detecting moisture incorrectly or something. Being it in the garage, having it in the garage, where sometimes we have outside humidity of 100% or more, it's probably going to be pretty high in the garage. So we'll see what happens with that. And then they list max altitude that this operates at. It runs on 4 AA 1.5 volt batteries, and it says the estimated battery life is approximately 2 years. Really. We'll see. We'll have to wait 2 years to figure that out, right? But it also depends on your usage, the network connection strength, and other stuff like that. So your mileage may vary there. It has a 2-meter leak sensor cable. You can extend those up to 150 meters, as I said in the unboxing. and it attaches to that port. It has 802.11bg/AX. It's 2.4 gig only though, as you see right here. And there's the power range up to 30 meters. The range is what the range is normally in a normal Wi-Fi environment. It also has Bluetooth version 5, and it has a range of up to 10 meters or 33 feet indoors, normal Bluetooth stuff. It also has Zigbee, the 802.15.4 protocol, and its normal Zigbee range as well, depending on your environment. It runs on an ESP Shelly C68F CPU with 8 meg of flash, and it has scheduling, no scheduling, but it has webhook options. It has MQTT, UDP, and key value store options available for it. So those are the specifications. Let's get into some of the features that are available in this device. So there's a number of features built into this device. Obviously, we talked about the cable here. This is extendable up to 150 meters. So you can do a small area of detection or a really large area of detection. It supports 2 modes. It supports flood mode, and it also supports rain mode. And let's see where that actually is in here. So you can change the alarm mode to rain and flood. If you change it to rain, you get, basically it changes the way the alerting works. So you can set this outside. I believe it's IP44 compatible. I'll have to go look that up here. Anyway, with rain mode, it reports rain, but there's no alarm sounding. And let's see, let's check this, flood and rain. So these are your different options. Rain, okay, so rain reports rain, no sound alarm. So you'll just get rain notices here. If you choose the flood mode, which is typically what most people will use here, you have a bunch of different modes. You have economic, normal, and intense. And if you go to their documentation, you can see down here what all of these are. So you have the different alarm modes here. Flood mode or rain mode we just talked about, right? There's no report stating frequency for rain mode. The buzzer is disabled. Flood mode has intense, normal, which is the default in economic. So the report state frequencies every 30 seconds for 5 minutes, regardless of the alarm mode. Every 5 minutes for 30 minutes, every 30 minutes once for 1 hour, etc. Then the buzzer in intense mode will be on for 10 minutes and then on for 1 minute every 5 minutes. So it'll keep alerting you even after the 10 minutes are up, but it runs for 10 minutes. That's the intense version. Normal means the alarm comes on for 5 minutes and then 1 minute for 1 minute every 30 minutes. So 5 minutes and then a minute every 30 minutes. And if you go to economic mode, that particular buzzer is disabled. Now for intense and normal, the buzzer mute conditions, no flood. I'm not sure what that means. And then button single push for that. Obviously for intense and you can use it for like lab equipment, server rooms. You really want to know when it's leaking or wet. Normal use is obvious for normal. Economic, and that's what this was over here. Vacation home, mountain, cabin, country. So it's when you're not really there for a while. Now I'm going to be using this flood sensor in Home Assistant. I may not be able to hear the buzzer at all, right? But I will be able to get an alert through Home Assistant, and that's through automations that I would set up. So the buzzer doesn't really matter to me. I can actually use the economic mode, and in the economic mode, I'll have no buzzer, but I'll get alerted through Home Assistant if there's a water leak. So that'll be just fine for that. One thing to note here on this this device, when you push the button here, it'll stay on for 3 minutes. So let's go through some of the button settings here real quick, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. LED buttons here, these are the press times. So if you press it one time, it wakes up the device for 3 minutes. Now, if you're going to be doing anything with the web interface, which now has timed out for me here, you can see, you'll want to press the button and it'll wake it up for 3 minutes. The device turns on it and it initiates a state report, but also is awake for you to work with it. Again, press one time, reports status of the flood component. If you press it 2 times rapidly, it'll put it back to sleep. So if you want to save the battery, you want to make a quick change on the web interface, you can do that by clicking it once and then double clicking it when you're done and turns it off, unless you let it go for the 3 minutes. If you press it 3 times rapidly, it puts the device in Zigbee inclusion mode. Now there's also an option under the web interface for doing this same thing. Once I get the web interface to come back up, I've pushed the button and now it's, that's green. You can't really see it, but it is green. See if we can get this to wake back up now. Under settings or under Zigbee, you can enable Zigbee mode. You can't have it run Matter and Zigbee at the same time. You'll have to choose one of those modes. But if you go to Matter here, you can see what it's doing. Right now I have the device connected to 2 fabrics. If I want to reset it, I can remove it from all the fabrics. It also is interesting. It tells you the cable's unplugged. So if I come in here and plug in the cable, you should see that go away. All right, so that's interesting. I didn't know that before, but now it'll tell you that. And then, like I said, with Zigbee, you can enable Zigbee here, or you can do it through the button presses here. Press it 3 times rapidly, it puts it in inclusion mode. Now you have to, I believe, you have to switch the device from Matter to Zigbee or back. So you have to first press it 5 times rapidly. That puts you in either Matter or Zigbee mode. And I think you can probably still do that even from this here. I don't know. If I do that, it'll break it. But anyway, I guess you press it here and then 3 times rapidly puts it in inclusion mode. If you want to do a network reset, you hold it for 5 seconds. And if you want to factory reset the device, you hold the button for 10 seconds. So those are all of the inputs. The outputs here are the buzzers we talked about. Long beep indicates flood detection. Short beep indicates low battery when the battery level is below 20%. You should also get a battery status in Home Assistant. Now I included this earlier into Home Assistant using Matter. Now I just scanned the QR code using the Home Assistant companion app and I followed the prompts on the screen to get myself connected to Home Assistant, and it just shows up in Home Assistant under the Matter devices. Now it's also showing it here as well, but if I go to Matter devices, I have 2 devices here. I have the Shelly Flood, which is this one, and I have the Smart Wi-Fi plug, which I'm already using under Matter. This is a TP-Link. So I click on Shelly here, and I have a water leak sensor, firmware, and identity. Now it's interesting that it doesn't show any battery level. So I guess it's not exposed here to see where the battery level is. So that's interesting. So you're going to have to rely on that the beeping noise if the battery drops below a certain percentage, the 20%. All right, what else am I saying? We talked about normal, intense, economic flood modes, remote notifications, and built-in buzzer for local alerts. Talked about that. And we talked about the batteries. Let me show you the batteries. I mean, there's nothing special about it, but I'll show you the how that's set up here. So once you when you get it, the batteries aren't enabled. They're in there. They come with the batteries, but they're not enabled. So you got to get something to open this up with. There'll be a little one of those little plastic things you pull out of here. But these are the batteries it comes with. And if you want to change the batteries, that's all you do. These are alkaline batteries. They are not rechargeable, but I don't. If you get the right voltage, now some rechargeable batteries don't have enough voltage to work. They say they're 1.5, but they don't always work. So you may or may not be able to use rechargeables in here. If you can get away with rechargeables, I would do it, because you're going to want to potentially replace this every couple of years. I mean, if it lasts 2 years, you're replacing 4 batteries every 2 years. But ecological reasons, you may want to get rechargeables. So anyway, that's it right there. All right, what else do we want to talk about? That was the batteries. IP44 rated, which means that you can see. Let me show you what we got here. So a rating of IP44 indicates moderate protection against solids and water splashing from any direction. So even though this is a rain sensor, there's a rain sensor option. You're going to have to put the device under cover somewhere. It's not designed to be in the rain if it's just set to be protected against solids and water splashing. It's not you can tell when you look at it here that it's not fully sealed. My voice assist is talking to me over there in the background, if you can hear that, because I triggered it somehow. Anyway, when you put the cover on here, obviously you're going to see that it's, if you splash it from the sides or whatever, it's going to be okay. But if you dump a bunch of rain on this and you've got this thing like that, the water is going to eventually seep down in here and get into it. So you're going to have to keep it undercover. It's not designed to be outside, it doesn't look like, especially with the temperatures and things it talks about. Wow, my voice assist is going crazy over there. I've got it attached to Home Assistant. So anyway, now I've distracted by that there. IP44, and it connects to a whole bunch of different home automation systems. And you can see, I believe, on their website, they just kind of show some of that. Let me see what we got here. Yeah, there we go. So it shows all of these different options. Now you can do MQTT directly to anything. I haven't played with that yet, but that I may, to see if I can get it to do different things with that. This means if you have an MQTT bridge that talks to your smart home hub or whatever, you can use it here. Obviously, I'm going to be using it with Home Assistant as well, but you can see all the options here. And let's see, supports local automation actions. Now, if you don't want to, let me wake it back up again. If you don't want to use a smart home hub, or you don't have one, why not? Why don't you have one? But if you don't, you want to do something directly with this device, let's say you're in a factory or some other thing, you can actually make this work with actions here. So you could create an action name, and then whenever the flood is it's alarming, you can add some stuff here. So it says create custom automation scenarios based on device functionality. So it does have the option to do that directly on the device itself. And then you can use, obviously, the Shelly Cloud. You can connect to this if you have a cloud account with Shelly. That's another option for you to use. If you have a whole Shelly environment in your house or wherever, and you're using the app in the cloud, you can do that as well. That doesn't rely on a local smart home hub. I'm about local first. So this works on Zigbee, also works on Matter. That's all local to my house here. So I don't have to worry about going out to the cloud to get some sort of notification or whatever. And that's the way I like to have it. So those are a bunch of the features that you have with this. What else do we have here? Looking at my notes here, and we talked about it going into Home Assistant, the inputs and all of that. You can see here that I have it installed on my water heater. So this is probably the permanent location for it. So this is how I'll be using it. Here's another example of it installed on a pipe. This is the main water input or ingress to my house. So if this pipe starts to leak, and you can see there's a whole bunch of connections on this pipe, and there's a shutoff valve. Any of that stuff could leak at any point. So if I wrap this cable around the pipe and it starts to leak, I'll get notified that way as well. And you can also do something like put it behind a washing machine or under a sink or any of the other places where you feel like there might be water leaking issues. All right, so that's going to do it for this video. I just wanted a quick overview of this new Flood 4. I really think this is one of the neatest features, obviously, is going to be the fact that you can do up to 150 meters of water detection with these cables rather than using a single point of failure or a single point where the water would come down. A lot of times that's not enough. So really looking forward to putting this to use. Hopefully I'll never need it. Obviously these are these types of devices I consider insurance. If they never go off, then you're good, but they do hopefully solve an issue if you have some sort of water leak. All right, again, that's going to do it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this is helpful to you. If you want one of these, just I'll put the link down below in my channel here, and go grab one, or 2 or 3. We'll see you on the next one.